Hey guys, welcome back. This is Library of Orthanc, LOTR TCG, back with another all-foil deck tech video. Again, this is going to be just looking at a shadow side from the expanded format, and this is going to be a variant on a shadow that we did a previous video on. So we did the Sudden Strike shadow for expanded, and what we're going to introduce you today is the Corsair Sudden Strike shadow. So it's going to have some of the same principles that we saw in the Gollum Sudden Strike shadow. So if you haven't checked that video out, be sure to check that one out, because that's going to really describe more of the non-Corsair portion of this deck. But I'm going to start out and just review over the Corsairs with you, and then kind of talk about how that synergizes with the Sudden Strike. So starting off, anytime you're playing Corsairs, of course, this is the beauty. The full set of Castamir of Umbar. So again, we've got our Peter Jackson there, and the key thing with this is this really drives your whole Corsair deck. You can exert him to play a Corsair to add 2 tokens to a card that already has a Raider token on it. So it's kind of like a reinforce ability. Exert him and add 2 tokens. So that really piles up tokens quickly. And then the other thing that's just beastly with this guy is he's always fierce. And then when you're exerting him, he's enduring. So he goes from 14 to 16 to 18. Every time you get a wound on him, enduring means you get to add 2 power bonus. So really nice card there. And we're playing the full 4 copies of that, as you would for Corsair. The other second most key card for Corsair is the Corsair Marauder. So we're also playing 4 copies of that. And what the Corsair Marauder does is he gets rid of possessions. And this is the crazy part, is when you play him, if you can spot another Corsair, you may discard a possession to add 2 tokens to a card that already has a token on it. So discarding a possession is like a cost of this card. So they act like that is, usually you have to do something, pay something, or do something bad to yourself to get to add tokens. But in this case, you get to discard your opponent's possession. Technically, you could discard your own, but again, you're typically going to be targeting to discard your opponent's possession and then using that to get to double reinforce one of your cards. So this is just an absolutely beast of a card. It doesn't have to win skirmishes. You just spot him in another Corsair and bam, you just start tearing apart your opponent's weapons. So, and giving yourself more tokens. Just a very, very good card. This is what makes the Corsairs work, is Castamir and the Marauder. That's really your meat of your deck right there. Then we do have a couple role players in the Plunderer. Again, the Plunderer just really helps you cycle. His cost is to discard 2 cards to get the double reinforce. So you'll see all these Corsairs have the common result, which is add 2 Raider tokens to a card that already has a Raider token on it. But the cost of this one is discard 2 cards, which again can actually be good for you because it helps you cycle. And he's just a nice small-sized minion that helps you cycle. Then we have the Corsair Boatswain. So what he does is he's going to pull your key conditions. So that's what he's really good for, is he actually has kind of a little different. He doesn't match the standard Corsair pattern, but what he has is exert him to play a Raider support area possession from your draw deck, which is basically everything in this deck are all support area possessions. So he really helps you get your support area filled up with the possessions that you need. And just drop him down and exert. So he's really more of a tutor card, but he himself, of course, is a Corsair, so then he can synergize with Castamir, for example, and when you play a Corsair to add 2 tokens, is good with with that type of thing. Then we do have 4 copies of the Corsair Lookout. This is great for 2 things. One is to swarm, and one is to get rid of allies. So in the expanded format, allies are actually very strong, and so we have 4 full copies of this. And so what it says is if you have initiative, you may discard an ally to add 2 tokens to a card that already has the token on it. So this one is a little different in that it does require initiative, but that you'll see later that won't be a problem. But it requires initiative as part of the cost too. So it's initiative and discard an ally. The discard an ally, though, just outright again, getting rid of one of your opponent's cards as a cost for a bonus of something you're doing is fantastic. So we've got 4 copies of the Corsair Lookout. Then this card again really makes the deck go, is called the Black Sails of Umbar. So this is one where you pile up tokens on it and ultimately, end up with a free Castamir from your discard pile. So how it works is when you play it, you get 1 single token. And then for the shadow phase, you can remove X tokens here to play a Corsair from your discard pile for Twilight minus X, and then discard this possession. So you get 7 tokens piled up here. You get a free Castamir, and not only is it free, it's free out of your discard pile. So you don't even need one in your hand. So yeah, use that to recur your Castamirs if you don't have one. If you're already good on having a Castamir down because he's unique, get those Corsair Marauders out. It's just a fantastic card. And we play 4 full copies of that to just get maximum recursion of our best minions. So that definitely fits with the Sudden Strike theme of recursion from the discard pile. And being able to get any variety of your Corsairs out to do that. And then this is actually very good in this deck too, the Ships of Great Draught. So this is remove a threat or discard a Raider card from hand to add a Raider token here. And you can remove 2 Raider tokens to place a Raider card from your discard pile on top of your draw deck. Most notably, this doesn't have to be a character that you're returning. You can return any Raider card. So that's what this is good for, is if you need to get back your possessions, need to get back something different. This does help you recur those back to the start of your top of your draw deck. The downside, of course, is it's in the regroup phase. It's going to the top of your draw deck. But if you believe that your opponent is going to be double moving, then you take your regroup action, then you get to regroup your hand, and then you're basically drawing the card that you just put back on there. So that's really good if you anticipate a double move. You may want to utilize those tokens on the ships at that point in time. Then the card which I mentioned about giving you initiative that is very key to this strategy is the Corsair War Galley. We do have 3 copies of that. And basically, when you get 6 tokens on this, you always have initiative. And again, if you need to get some extra Twilight for a Swarm during the regroup phase, you can, burn this to do that. But typically you're keeping this down on the table just to give yourself initiative and pile up tokens. That is the War Galley. And what are you going to do with that initiative in terms of, I mentioned swarming. We do have 3 copies of this underfoot. So this is key because what this does is it really has a unique effect that I don't know of any other card that does this. It allows you to reconcile your hand during the shadow phase. So as long as you have initiative and are able to spot a man, you're able to completely reconcile your hand. So when you have these small swarmish minions, or you've got a couple of black sails stacked up where you can do a swarm, this is just absurd because you play out your hand and then you literally get to reconcile your hand. So that is just absolutely bonkers. And then you can also discard the condition to get a +2 pump. That's decent as well because this is unique. And so if you get extra copies down, feel free to pump it out and get rid of it so that you can play your second one. But just to be able to, reconcile your hand as a condition, just for having initiative, it really just keeps you cycling so well. I feel like that you should have to do something more to get that, but I guess you have to discard the condition. So it is a condition, but you have to discard it to reconcile. But still, you can have it sitting because it's a condition, you can have it sitting on the table until you need it, and then you burn it when you need it, or when you get one of these extra copies, because it is unique and you can only have one down at a time. So that's underfoot. So that is the Corsair component of the deck. And this, I believe, is 63-ish cards. And it's about 50-50, where about half of it's Corsair, and then the other half is your Sudden Strike Gollum. So we'll look at this. I won't go into too huge detail on this because we had just reviewed the Sudden Strike strategy, but I'll just very briefly touch on how it works. This is the Gollum that allows you to play itself out of the discard pile if your free peoples are playing D-Gall. So basically you get a D-Gall in your discard pile, and then you're able to play this out of your discard pile. So we do play her Sneak, Old Villain, same as last time to cycle. This is the new edition then. So let's talk about this. We have the Plotting Deceiver. Why this is so great is because the Corsairs are all about initiative, and this Gollum just literally says, if you have initiative during the shadow phase, you may play this minion from your discard pile. So you will always have access to this this Gollum, because you always have initiative. So you get the initiative off the Corsair War Galley. You're just able to pull this Gollum every single turn over and over. No, nothing else needed to do that. So that is fantastic. Then we have Shelob like last time, very expected. We have our full play set of Captured by the Ring last time. Same as last time, again, very expected to help us recur our golems. And the namesake card, the 4 copies of Sudden Strike. Again, you spot Smeagol or Gollum to play any minion from your draw deck. This can get your Corsairs even if you wanted to, but again, usually you're probably picking up some of your more unique minions because the Corsairs are pretty good at recurring themselves. You're probably using this to get some of the non-Corsair things that you need out of here. And don't forget, obviously, to use this to pull Shelob and the web simultaneously. That's a great thing to do with it. But enough on that, like I said, since we covered that strategy. And then 4 copies of the Evil-smelling Fens. Again, recurring your key minions, setting up a swarm, whatever you want to do. This is just fantastic in terms of getting stuff back from the discard pile. There's the web that I mentioned. 1 copy. Now we're into our miscellaneous minions. Our Wraith, all of these miscellaneous categories, I would say, are smaller than the what we saw with the previous Sudden Strike. Again, because the previous Sudden Strike had only miscellaneous minions, it did not have a Corsair component. So the slots are just more tight in this list. So we do have our 1 Enquëa. Never leave home without 1 Enquëa. We've got our couple copies of Nelya to manipulate the sight path for ourselves. Again, largely potentially for free peoples or to just, get sites that, again, I won't do a full site review, but, you've got Buckland Homestead with Nazgul to discard conditions. You've got Steward's Tomb for their sanctuaries to deny them healing. You've got Cavern Entrance if you're pulling a swarm on them. So those are really your key defensive things to be aware of to pull. And then lastly, in the Wraith component, we do have Úlairë, Nertëa, the Dark Horseman. Again, just an absolute menace of the expanded format. And, when he hurts, he kills because, if you don't build your deck right, knowing that this is a possibility, he can come down and wreck you. Then, again, similar Grima component. We do have, in this deck, 3 and 3 instead of the 4 and 4 that we saw in the last deck. And what I mean by that is 3 Grimas with 3 Saruman's powers. Now, the only difference we saw, too, is last time we saw a 2-2 split between Wormtongue and Servant of Another Master. This time we see a 1-1-1 split. And we actually do see them include the Chief Counselor, which I kind of like that tech to be able to have access to Chief Counselor as well. He's the one, again, that punishes people for 4 free people's cultures. That other one was very heavy on Southron leaders, and so probably didn't feel the need for Grima as much. But this is the one spot for free people's cultures to return the companion and all cards on him to their owner's hands. So that is, incredibly punishing if you have the 3 cultures. Excuse me, if you have 4 cultures down. And this is not very foily, but if you can see, his teary eyes are foiled. It's really cool, really well done. It's a little hard to catch on the camera, but nicely done foil. So that's the Chief Counselor. So Wormtongue, Chief Counselor, Servant of Another Master, the full Grima suite there with the 3 Saruman's powers. So that's the 3 and 3. Then was just mentioning the Southron Leader. We've got 1 copy of that in here as opposed to the 3 we were playing last time. Again, that's the one that will just cause a wounding nightmare for people who have 4 cultures. This time we actually 1-upped our Balrog to 2, so we must like the Balrog in this deck, and we've got option to play it twice. And lastly, we did switch up the Sauron to Sauron Dark Lord of Mordor. I think this deck in particular has an opportunity to play a lot of small minions down. So this part about for each minion you exert, Sauron has Twilight cost -X, where X is the current region number. This kind of toil type effect. Because of that, because we have so many small minions, we can actually potentially get this Sauron down better than the Lord of the Rings. So we are playing Sauron Dark Lord of Mordor as our Sauron in this one. So I know this wasn't a full review of the sudden strike portion of the deck, but hopefully it gave you a nice comparison of what changed between this sudden strike version and what changed out of the other one. So this was obviously more of a trimmed down version. So some of the things you didn't see from the last one now, the last one was featuring Úlairë Cantea for possession removal. We've got our Corsair Marauders, which are just quite frankly so much better at removing possessions, so we don't need that. You've got like a Dunlending Ravager in here for ally removal. And again, we've got our 4 copies of our guy over here. Couldn't remember his name, the Lookout. The Lookout removes allies. So we've got huge ally removal in the Lookout. We've got huge possession removal in the Marauder. So then we don't need some of the same tech that we were featuring in the other one. Like I said, we were featuring this Sauron instead in the last list. And then you are missing out on some miscellaneous plays, but nothing really too bad. It's stuff like, okay, we're not playing a Bill Ferny. We're not playing Morgul Squealers for recursion again, because we've got some nice recursion with our ships of, with our Black Sails of Umbar. And we're not playing a couple of these, some of these miscellaneous minions that you see here with Mumok Commander Goth Magmahur, Saruman, who's not a minion, but you get what I'm saying. We're not playing any of these guys because, again, the Corsairs are replicating some of the wounding and battling effects that those guys are doing. So that really explains the difference. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I really like the Corsair Sudden Strike side. I'm going to give you guys a little lineup here of what we're doing, again, just so I can get a nice thumbnail for you guys. So let me see if I can get the foiling action on some of these guys here too. So there's that, and let's show the War Galley, because we're all about the initiative in this deck here. So got the War Galley, and then I'm going to show the Plotting Deceiver, because that's the one that goes with the galley. And then what else can we show, potentially from this sudden strike side that's a little more unique that we didn't see last time? Yeah, let's just go ahead and throw down Grima and Sauron. So I think that's a nice little tribute here of the sudden strike shadow. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed seeing the differences between the Corsair Sudden Strike and the standard Gollum Sudden Strike. What I think is really interesting is in Expanded, in a movie, you've got Ninja Golem, which is just all about Golem and conditions. But in this format, the Sudden Strike, you really get to have Golem supported by all sorts of specialty minions, which I think is a really cool way to go with that. So hopefully you like this shadow and like this, because this has been our second video on it now. Although, like I said, this one was definite hybrid with the Corsairs. Well, thanks, guys. Please continue to give us your comments, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and stay tuned for more Lord of the Rings videos.